Well, we're streaming today. We're streaming today. I hope that you are well. We're streaming today. We're streaming today. The world is going to hell. I'm glad that you're here with me to see what can be done for us. So today we will stream. Today we will stream. We're streaming today. Hey Dan Boxes, how you doing? Usually people don't come in to hear the song live, so congratulations, you did it. As you can see, I'm red as a tomato. I went to the beach with a friend today and just got absolutely scorched. I stupidly didn't bring a hat with me. Absolutely dumb to do. And then on top of that, my sleep schedule has been an absolute disaster because of the protest and because of the events. With the exception of doing that video, I haven't really had the opportunity to talk about it, honestly. It was quite an experience. Very eye-opening, if you ask me. Bless the people who came. Bless the people who came. Absolutely beautiful people, wonderful people coming to that protest. I did enjoy my time at the beach, of course I did. It was a beautiful day, got into the water, shared a glass of wine with a friend that I hadn't seen in quite some time. So it was very, very invigorating and perfectly timed. Perfectly timed. When I made that last video, I was in quite a state of despair, honestly. And it was well timed to have a friend come over and just spend a few hours lounging lazily upon a beach. Absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So, and on the uptick, I mean, that video, for all the angst of it, an update on the fellow who was arrested, by the way, at that protest. He has contacted his lawyers. He has legal aid. They are going to push through. We have people who are willing to testify that the police instigated the event. I have the footage that I took. Unfortunately, I missed literally the just few seconds. I did not believe that the police would engage us in that manner. I simply didn't believe it. That there were so few of us. We were so, like, we were such a harmless group. Like, truly a harmless group. 10 to 15 people showing up, wheelchairs and canes, young teenagers, absolutely. Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much. Mark says, thanks for the Canada Abandons the Disabled video. Scary stuff, yes, but informative, yes. Ruth, police get paid too much. Thanks for being here, Ruth. The police budget is outrageous. It's far too much. Nice picture in the live stream channel on your Discord of Socialist Action at Work at the U.S. Embassy in Toronto. The SOS Cuba weirdos have now showed up in the last 10 minutes or so. Let me see. Socialist Action at the U.S. Embassy. Excellent. Yeah. That was very disheartening to realize while we were doing the protest that the Cuba protest behind us was actually a pro-invasion protest. Even more disheartening was that it drew 10 times our numbers. Honestly, it was a very eye-opening experience for me to really realize that we can get 100 people on the streets to go bomb a place, but we can't get, half that number on the streets to protest the abandonment of our disabled. And I mean, if there is a glimmer of good news to come out of that, I gained 10 subscribers from it. That is a bittersweet feeling. That is a bittersweet feeling to know that I gained subscribers, but at the same time, that was a very harrowing experience and a very discouraging one. And the fake Christians, if you know anything about Yonge and Dundas Square, you know that there's always these idiotic fake Christians with their stupid mics saying dumb slogans about how we're all sinners and we need to come to Jesus and all of this. They're just con men preying on the vulnerable and the weak in order to funnel them into their weird little kooky cult. And there we are, standing there, a genuine anti-poverty protest, which anti-poverty was one of Christ's main talking points. He spoke about it a great deal, and very with clarity and firmness. No interpretation required. Give your money to the poor. Very straightforward statements. And these fake Christians performing on the side while we were doing an actual anti-poverty protest that they refused to join. Very telling. And again, very eye-opening. It makes me realize I don't know if I've ever met a Christian. I've met lots of people who claim to be Christians. I've met lots of fake Christians, I think. I don't know that I've ever met an actual Christian. And Christianity largely is just for show at this point. It's just a little club for rich people to go hang out. I don't genuinely believe there are Christians in North America. And because if there were, it's not like Isabella, who has organized these protests, it's not like Isabella isn't attempting to get churches and clergy to join. They just won't. They just don't care. So it's anyhow, that was my weekend. And so Isabella had me talking into the mic, and of course I wasn't quite prepared for that, and so I shouted a little too much, and I definitely strained my voice, and so I'm still feeling the repercussions from that. So I doubt I'll get too vigorous today, but that was my weekend. I went home, I literally fell asleep, and I didn't wake up for 24 hours. All right. And of course, while this is going on, we've got Germany was warned about floods, but few communities took measures, right? The flood damage that's coming through Germany. This is, of course, completely tied to climate change, right? This is how climate change is going to work. That in some areas, right, the intense heat and the intense evaporation, right, it's going to increase evaporation and suck moisture directly out of the earth itself and out of the water. And where is that water going to go? Well, it's going to dump somewhere else. And when it dumps somewhere else, it's going to be more extreme. It's going to be more aggressive. It's going to come down incredibly. Right? I'm glad to see that Merkel here is acknowledging it. Right? She's not trying to pretend that it isn't tied to climate change somehow. She's acknowledging it at the very least. And the, a variety. Like, it, if you have like twice the amount of waterfall that you're expecting or that is normal, right? You're simply not going to be prepared for it. And I feel like the Christians are the worst when it comes to flooding because they have this sort of deluded idea that and when Noah came off the boat, God said he would never destroy the world again with a flood. It's like, oh, your magic book said that flooding wasn't going to be an issue. Don't need to prepare for that. Okay. And at least 120 dead and hundreds unaccounted for. Like, this is a massive, massive, massive disaster. More pictures that have come out of it. And, I mean, you compare this to the wildfires in British Columbia, which I had forgotten to British Columbia wildfires map. There we go. The burning down of the city of Lytton, which doesn't seem to have actually penetrated into the social consciousness. Like, these wildfires, we're down a little bit in terms of wildfires. Of course, I'm always interested in what's happening near Kamloops. I know that some of the people in the stream have been from Kamloops. It looks like Kamloops is fairly well protected, but you can see these wildfires are absolutely raging. And the burning down of the city of Lytton, and now you have the wiping out of several towns across Germany. Like, what is it going to take? What is it going to take before people start to actually look at this and think something genuine must be done? That obviously what we're doing is not working. Obviously it isn't working. How do we know it isn't working? Because we're losing communities to it. That if this was an invading alien army, or if this was a military force, we already would have reconfigured our economy into a war economy. But because it's nature, because it's the rules of the system we live in, which we've been ignoring this whole time anyway, right? We simply cannot grasp or comprehend or understand or acknowledge. I think that's what it is more than anything. We're so arrogant and disconnected and ludicrously attached to the idea that we can be the authors of our own fate, that we cannot acknowledge that there are simply forces that are bigger than we are. There are simply forces that are larger than us. And if we don't honor and approach those forces with humility, they will have no problem wiping us out. They simply will not have any issue wiping us out. You think the earth will shed a tear as it destroys a species that actively defies the rules that are in place? Like, there are rules. Like, this, even if you're a secularist, even if you refuse, or I shouldn't say refuse, but even if you don't acknowledge even the possibility that the quantum energy we stand within could possibly be sentient or possibly have an objective or a goal unto itself, put that aside. Strict scientific inquiry, strict atheist approach, strict secularism, there are rules. Full stop and period. There are rules. We have been refusing to acknowledge them. Like we are destructive, rebellious teenagers who just simply refuse to acknowledge that there are rules that you have to abide by. And if you don't abide by them, you can burn your house down. You can burn your house down. You can flood your house out. You can destroy yourself if you do not abide. And the rules aren't complicated. Like, they're very straightforward. If you pollute this place will turn against you. Very straightforward concept. We can get into the intricacies of the science and delve deeper, but very straightforwardly. If you pollute this place will turn against you. It's very obviously built in. It is a rule that exists in this plane of existence, whether you believe it's a sentient being or God or not. And we're unable to confront that, because confronting that would mean confronting our own arrogance and our own hubris and our own stupidity, frankly. And we're not going to do any of that. We're the greatest country in the world, right? Like, if you listen to the Americans, right? Manifest Destiny and all that, right? If you listen to Manifest Destiny and all of this idea that we are the supreme nation and we are the greatest thing, and on and on and on it goes, and meanwhile the earth looks at it and goes, you're just a bunch of fucking monkeys. Have you forgotten that? Have you forgotten that you're just a bunch of fucking monkeys? No, put down the stick. Put down the fire. That oil that you found in the ground, you better just fucking leave it there, you dumb fucking monkeys. Because you can burn this fucking place down. And I'll let you do it. So, moving on. This is an actually very interesting graph that I think illuminates a lot of what's happening on the world stage. That if you look in 2000, right? For those of you who are just listening, it's a map of the world. Blue, it's showing countries which share greater trade with. Blue is the United States, which in 2000 was most of the world. Red indicates China, and China really was only trading with the people who were directly around it. Excluding places like India and Australia, and having some trade in Australia, but not really much of anything, right? One country over in I think that's Ecuador, if I'm not mistaken, over in South America. But then by 2020, the entire map turns red. Russia, Australia, most of South America, all of Africa, huge sections of Europe. Most of Europe, in fact. It really is just Italy, the UK, France, and Portugal, and one of the Eastern, which I'm blanking on this name. But so 4 or 5 European nations are still trading more with the United States. But the rest of Europe, all of the Asian continent, all of the African continent, Australia, most of South America, are now trading mostly with China. And you can see they even have a percentage of global trade. In 2020, the United States is doing 75% of global trade. In 2000, the United States is doing 75% of global trade. And by 2020, it's China that's doing 75% of global trade. This completely ties in to what I have been saying over and over and over again about the United States. The world no longer trusts the United States. The United States is not stable. It has destabilized itself, and it has destabilized its relationships with its allies. That more and more countries are looking at the United States, which is laying out sanctions, which is constantly going to war, which is electing people like Donald fucking Trump. And even electing Joe Biden isn't that big of a boon. Like, Joe Biden's not the greatest. And so more and more countries are turning away from the United States and seeking more stable allies. It's a very natural thing to want to do, to seek out stable allies in the region. And the United States, its response to this only chases people away further. The Uyghur genocide narrative is blowing up in the United States' face. It's blowing up in big, big, big ways. I found this article. Yeah. Is that it? No. Oh, did I not bookmark it? Please don't tell me I did that. That would be very embarrassing. I should have had this prepared. Is it down here? Please tell me, God, that I actually... Yes. Brilliant. I should bring that up. This is a report. Italy releases research report on Xinjiang issues. The U.S. seeks geopolitical benefits in the name of human rights. 3 research institutions in Italy, the Italian Institute of Politics, Society and Economics, the Italian Institute of International Diplomacy, and the Italian Eurasian Mediterranean Research Center jointly released a research report written by multiple independent research. Xinjiang, Understanding Complexity Construction, Peace through Investigation and Research, restores the truth about the Xinjiang issue. The report criticizes relevant countries represented by the United States for seeking geopolitical benefits through human rights issues. This is the report itself. It is, of course, in Italian. I wish that it was not. I wish that it was in English. I would love to read the report directly. So, the Italian research report stated that in recent years, highly politicized media attacks against China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region have frequently spread, often spreading baseless or even completely false information. On this issue, the unbiased voice of scholars who have really lived and done research in Xinjiang is seriously missing. Many views from China have been rejected a priori by the West for ideological reasons. The report clearly stated that the purpose of its writing is to provide the public and policymakers with a different perspective and to distinguish it from the prejudiced and specious accusations from the Five Eyes alliance countries and some think tanks. And it goes on to essentially say that China has been investing heavily in the region, that there is simply no evidence of this Uyghur genocide occurring, and also confirms what I have been saying on this channel all along, which is that Google Maps, we're opening Google Maps, which is that the Belt and Road Initiative requires heavy protection in the Xinjiang region, that the Uyghur Autonomous Zone is absolutely crucial for the Belt and Road Initiative. Why am I suddenly struggling with this? Did they suddenly rename this? Why am I struggling with this? Help me, everyone. Oh my God, I cannot believe. I must be freaking exhausted. There we go. Oh my goodness. That the Belt and Road Initiative is absolutely crucial and key in the Xinjiang province. The report explicitly states this. The report concluded that Xinjiang is the hub of China's infrastructure and logistics system. So what I'm trying to say with this particular article is that I am a genius. I came to this conclusion myself, seeing the Belt and Road Initiative and seeing what was happening in Xinjiang, and it's just been confirmed here. And the people who have been saying that the only people who are going along with the the Uyghur denialism, the Uyghur genocide denial, are doing so because they are trade partners with China. Well, Italy, as you can see by this map here, Italy is still a majority trader with the United States. So that's off the table. So here you're seeing a very clearly stated repudiation of the CIA propaganda surrounding China. Again, I am looking forward to the inevitable UN visit, that the UN will absolutely send a delegate, that the UN absolutely will send somebody into Xinjiang to see what is happening there with their own eyes and come out with a report. And I expect that report to be decisive. Very much, and what will happen, and as it has happened in the past, is that suddenly the Uyghur genocide narrative will disappear. It will just evaporate into the air, and the American empire will move on to some other propaganda piece. Exactly what happened to Venezuela. We all remember going through a couple of years of a period of time when people would say, look at Venezuela, as if this was a repudiation of socialism. As socialism had failed, look at Venezuela. And then the UN comes out with a very decisive report saying very clearly that what is hurting Venezuela are the US sanctions. And when that report came out, look at Venezuela essentially died. The only people I heard bring up Venezuela after that were clueless liberals like Destiny, illiterates who don't really know what they're talking about. And so I suspect full vindication, and most of the world understands this. There's only 30 countries that are on board with this narrative that comes out of the United States, right? That's a minority of the countries. That most countries have already seen through this. Most countries are moving forward as if there is no genocide happening. And so I'm looking forward to the UN report. I will 100% report on that report when it's released, because it will be the end of the Uyghur genocide narrative completely. It'll essentially be the end of Adrian Zen's career. Which, ding dong, the witch is dead. Ben Norton coming out with an absolutely wonderful tweet in regards to Cuba. If democracy is defined as a government representing the people, Cuba is way more democratic than the USA. But the USA defines democracy as having a show election every 4 years between two right-wing warmongers who are funded by billionaires and govern on behalf of corporations. That's absolutely the case. Ben Norton nailing it once again. Someone tried to tell me, I believe on this stream, that Ben Norton is kind of a joke, I think, in the UK. And my statement was, yeah, smear propaganda works. There's a reason people do it. Just a random tweet I found. Imagine waking up at 7 a.m., going to your 9 to 6 job and getting home at 7 p.m., and only having 4 to 5 hours to do all your shit, and then sleeping early, because you have to get up early again, for the rest of your life. 6 vomit emojis. Yep, that's what we're all signed up for right now. I, for one, think that it is bullshit, that we should absolutely stop. Yeah, I think it's absolutely absurd what's happening to people. Like, the friend that I hung out with today, she has a government job. It's a union job. She couldn't have more security. She couldn't be more protected as a worker. It's a well-paying job, benefits, and all of that. Her husband works at a chemical factory. Again, a union job, well-paying job, benefits, all of that. They cannot afford a house in this city. You are telling me that 2 people are going to work full-time jobs, some of the best jobs that you can get in this society. It doesn't get much better than those jobs that they have now. I think it can only be, like a Bay Street lawyer. Incidentally, I also have a Bay Street lawyer friend. His wife is an assistant professor. They can't afford a house in this city. So you're telling me that 2 professionals need to work full-time jobs, some of the most prestigious and secure jobs that the society offers, and they cannot afford a house. The system has failed. It's very clear. It's very obvious. It's going to get more obvious as time moves forward, as I always say on this channel. Of course, Doug Ford, here's an article from the Toronto Star. every decision Doug Ford makes reflects a lack of respect. Because Doug Ford has no respect. Sociopaths don't respect the people they prey on. Doug Ford views us as prey. He is a predator. He understands that cutting funding from necessary social structures, that cutting funding to help people means that he can funnel that money into his own coffers. And he's doing so very successfully through the privatization of the long-term care homes. It's the same grift that Mike Harris ran. That Mike Harris privatized the long-term care homes and then turns around and sits on the board of the privatized long-term care homes. Doug Ford is going to do the exact same thing and is going to benefit till the end of his life from expanding the misery of the elderly, of his own voters, incidentally. That it's most likely that the people who voted conservative were elderly people. And so Doug Ford has no loyalty even to the people who elected him, that he will jam them into these shithole conditions, these bug-infested, moldy food, can't get a cup of water, can't get clean sheets, can't get somebody to take me to the bathroom, shithole conditions where people have already been abandoned, thanks to Mike Harris. And the boomers and the conservatives are going to turn around and cry at their own children about it. And we're going to tell them, you voted for this. This is what you voted for. This is what you wanted. What are you complaining about? Because if you can't see through Doug Ford, like if you can't see through this guy, you're a lost cause. You're lost. LOLK says the system is broken. I completely agree. We're in a very desperate moment right now where there's this deep repudiation of sort of Reaganomics, of the Reagan era of neoliberalism, but at the same time, there's really no mechanism to extract it from the society. That the capitalist class buys the political class. That the capitalist class owns the politicians and will never allow them to change the system for the benefit of anyone but the capitalists. And my largest fear, and I continuously say this about Jagmeet Singh, is that he has been bought. That he's talking like a liberal. He's running on the left, and he's running on reasonable platforms considering the major crisis we're in. But he's not really pounding the pulpit on the leftist issues. Things like a basic income. Things like increasing the amount of money people get if they're on disability. He's not really pounding the pulpit on issues that could actually ameliorate poverty and confront capital in serious ways. My largest fear about Jagmeet Singh is that he's simply going to walk down the path that these other leaders are walking down, which is, it's good to have a billionaire for a friend. And that seems to be his trajectory. That as the conservatives collapse and as the NDP begins to appear more viable as an option, people will sway in that direction, and Singh will simply do what has to be done in order to maintain his own position of power, as a liberal does, by throwing crumbs at the populace. But he won't do anything serious to actually restructure the society. That the fundamental law of capital will remain in place, which is, you work for us and you show up to work on time. And if you don't get food and shelter. That's the fundamental law of capital that cannot be broken. That if you confront that rule, then you are an enemy of capital. And I'll be very surprised to see Jagmeet Singh actually confront capital in a meaningful way. So only time will tell on that particular issue. I still think voting NDP is the right choice, if only to scare the shit out of the Liberals and the Conservatives. So this is from IQ Air Quality in Toronto. As you can see, lots of red. The air quality in Toronto going into extreme territory. What do they call it? We've got smog. Ontario air pollution levels are considered low, contributing to a generally healthy air quality status. I think that a lot of this is coming from the wildfires in British Columbia, right? That the winds are blowing in particulate, all kinds of things happening in British Columbia right now. And of course, it's making our air less and less breathable. They're recommending when you leave the house to wear a mask or a covering for these particulates. Garden Mice asks, what about Green Left? There's something there. It depends if they can actually depose their current leader, Annemie Paul, that Demetrius, who is the socialist in the party, and he lost by a fairly thin margin, can take that party over. But until that party is actually being led by a socialist who is talking about socialism and who is actually interested in moving forward on socialism, the Green Party is essentially a liberal party. They're not really different. Like right now, we genuinely do have like a far-right fascist party in the Conservative Party. The Liberals are conservatives, right? The NDP seem to be liberals, and so do the Greens. And so I don't really think the Greens have anything to offer at the moment with Annemie Paul at the helm. She seems to be just falling back on identity politics and doesn't seem to have a genuine critique of the capitalist system. I mean, Dimitri Lascaris started a new party called Green Left? What? How did I miss this? Green Left. Are you saying if he did? Or... Well, and National Green Leadership Candidate, Green Party. I think that Green Left is just an organization within. My goodness. You would think if they announced it, today we're thrilled to announce, oh great. Today we're thrilled to announce the launch of Green Left Canada. We understand that capitalism is the core cause of the climate crisis and are deeply committed to an eco-socialist society grounded in true equality, peace, and reverence for Mother Earth. There's the link. Let's learn about it.
Our ecological crisis is the result of free market capitalism, deregulation, and reduced public spending. A new approach is possible.
We are on a precipice that threatens planetary extinction. Green Left Canada is committed to addressing this looming catastrophe. Current levels of inequality are incompatible with democracy.
By scapegoating communities and dividing working peoples, discrimination preserves privilege and domination.
Eco-socialists recognize connections among militarism, imperialism, and capitalism.
We recognize that while the challenges are real and pressing, substantive change is achievable
Through dialogue, organization, and collective action.
Inspired by diverse teachings, eco-socialists strive to embody reverence and love for all life.
I hate this. I hate this a lot. Like, I like the writing, the idea that there's multiple voices, all of that kind of stuff is a fine entrance. I despise the soundtrack. I think the music is so fucking stupid. I hate it when leftists do this. The NDP do this all the time, and I've been very critical of them. Fortunately, it seems like they're moving away from that for this election cycle because they've realized how fucking stupid it is to be talking about a serious issue that has catastrophic impacts on what is happening with this moronic piano music, yeah, love and fairy dust and glitter and all of these sorts of things. That's fucking moronic. Like, stop it with this childish bullshit. Stop pretending like you're a fucking 14-year-old girl writing in her goddamn glitter diary about, oh, today I discovered that Trevor loved me, right? Like, for real, listen to this. Does this music tell you we're in the middle of a fucking crisis, or does this music tell you, oh, I wonder if Bella will choose between Edward and whatever the fucking werewolf's name was?
Our ecological crisis is the result of free market capitalism,
Jenny really said
deregulation,
something mean
and
to
reduced
me today.
public spending.
And I really did.
A new
like
approach
that.
is possible.
I think I'm gonna.
We are on a
confront her.
precipice that threatens
Like,
planetary
Get rid of this fucking bullshit. Like, fuck you. Like, fuck you. Start talking to people like they're fucking adults. Maybe they'll start acting like adults if you get rid of this fucking 14-year-old tween bullshit. I'm so sick of it. I'm so fucking sick of it. This is the reason you guys are losing elections. Like, flat out. Like, you guys are sitting here being like, I don't know, it's a soundtrack, right? Like, no. Right? Fuck you. Fuck you. People respond more to sounds that they hear, things that they smell, and things that they see way more than like rational argument, right? Than like a well-constructed like phrase or any of this, right? And putting people to sleep or putting people at ease, we don't want that at all. I'm not interested in putting people at ease. I'm talking about building a fucking war economy. I'm talking about building a fucking war economy. I'm talking about going to fucking war. Going to war?
extinction. Green Left Canada is committed to addressing this looming catastrophe. Current levels of inequality are incompatible with democracy.
You don't win elections like this. This is baby shit. Nobody gives a fuck about this. Right? Do fucking better. You want to be a federal party? You want to actually get out there, grab people by the balls, convince them that you're serious? This is baby shit. This is baby shit that people will ignore. Fucking do better than this. Hire me. Get rid of this bullshit. This is fucking horse shit. We need some goddamn 7-nation army up in this ad. Yes, that like literally what we need is a rallying cry. Something that is going to mobilize people and make them realize that we actually have to go to war. Like, we have to go to war. I don't understand why this is so hard for fucking leftists to understand. We're going to fucking war. It's very straightforward. We know who our enemies are. You say it. They say it. They know who their enemies are. Right? They know. And oh, John, you're gonna scare people off with that. Fuck yeah, good. Fuck good. Good. The people we're gonna scare off are our enemies. The people who are gonna run off and vote for fascists and vote for the losers who are actually destroying their children's futures. They're gonna go do that anyway. Right? We're trying to galvanize the people who feel as though they've been abandoned. We're trying to galvanize the people who feel that they have no other options. And what are you starting this party for, if not to galvanize people in order to get off their fucking couch and actually join something that's moving and changing, right? Like, this genuinely looks like a high school project for like, we gotta protect the earth, you guys. This doesn't look serious. I don't take it seriously. Fucking, fucking hire me. We'll get an actual song. Use the same audio track, I think. Like, the writing is good. Like, these statements are good.
Our ecological crisis is the result of free market capitalism.
But again, right? Like this, our ecological crisis is part of free market capitalism. Like, wake people up. Like one of the things that I've been criticized with my art, when I was in art school, right? I got criticized for this, that people said to me, it's a bit on the nose, don't you think, John? Like, I'd make something and be a bit on the nose. And that really derailed me for a long time, right? People would say, like, a bit on the nose. And I've come to really realize, yeah, well, when you're in a fight, that's exactly where you want to put it, isn't it? Right on the fucking nose. Right on the fucking nose. These guys are voting for MAGA. They're fucking voting for fucking Aaron O'Toole. Right-wing fascist loser. Right? They're voting for floofy-haired loser Prince Trudeau, reading from cue cards with his daddy's name, right? Like, these are the losers that people are voting for, right? You know where they need it? They need it right on the fucking nose, right? To wake them up, to realize that, oh, they're in a fight. Oh, they're in a fight. They've just been casually abandoning their children to hellfire, right? And their children have been like, please, sir, please, can we have a decent future with breathable air and an arable land? Please, sir. When are we actually going to stand up and punch these fuckers in the nose? When are we actually going to make something that puts them in their place? That actually reveals them as the psychotic, sociopathic villains that they actually are. Do you think this is doing it?
Deregulation and
Really?
reduced public
You think this is doing it? You think this
A
is
new
putting them in
approach
their
is
place and
possible.
letting them know that they're fucking
We are on a
sociopathic
precipice
losers?
that threatens planetary extinction.
Who's this swaying? Who's this swaying? For real, who is this article? Who's this for? Near as I can tell, this is for Demetrius's grandmother. Anyway, I gotta move on from this. I could keep going, but I feel like I'm flogging a dead horse at this point. Just like, ugh. Like, we need full-scale rebellion, full-scale revolt, not sleepy bullshit. You're not gonna get the boomers on side. You're not going to get the boomers on side. It's not going to happen. Right? The boomers have abandoned you. Abandon them back. Stop with this bullshit. Well, okay, who we are. There they are. You know what I actually care about? What are their policies? Like, what are their policies? Yeah, politicians always do this shit. Like, what's your actual fucking policy? About Green Left. Green Left will empower political and social voices and organizations to develop economic... You have no policies. Near as I can tell. Like, you have no policies. What are your policies? Environment? Well, guess what? Like, the liberals say this. Like, what are your actual fucking policies? Like, and where'd all the anti-capitalist talk go? It looks like it's just kind of disappeared. Canada needs a nonpartisan eco-socialist movement that's action-driven and offers compromise. This sounds like corporate speak. I hate this. I hate this so much. Right? And everybody will. Like, listen to this. I'm going to read this out loud. Listen to this. Growing numbers of people in Canada are seeking a forum for the development and promotion of policies and grassroots campaigns that are situated at the intersection of environmentalism and socialism. Canada needs a nonpartisan, eco-socialist movement that is action-driven and offers comprehensive solutions for the local, economic, political, and ecological challenges we face. Sounds like a fucking robot made this. Sounds like it came out of fucking corporate Canada, right? Sounds like the fucking CIA is trying to trick me with this shit. That's what this sounds like. Just another capitalist saying the right things. Nailing it, Ruth. That's exactly what it is. It's just another fucking capitalist saying the right things so that they can get power and then fucking abandon us too. That's what this is. Like, fuck all of this. Fuck all of this. I don't genuinely believe that you're anti-capitalist. I don't genuinely believe that you're trying to grab these guys by the nuts. I don't genuinely believe that you're serious about actually confronting capital, right? With your stupid whingy music and your stupid, like, corporate speak, right? I see through this shit. Like, fuck you. You're just another power-hungry guy who's trying to climb up the ladder. You lost in the Green Party, and so now you're going to do a People's Party of Canada. Run your own thing, right? You can't take over the Greens, so you're going to do your own thing, just like fucking Maxine couldn't take over the Conservatives, so he ran and did his own thing, right? Like, let's Control F. Capitalist. Okay. So the first time they say capitalist, way down like page like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Paragraph 6. Replacing exploitive capitalist economic systems. Do they maybe say it a little bit earlier? Nope. Literally replacing exploitive capitalist economic systems with eco-socialist solutions. Okay, here, this is highlighted down on fucking 6. Let's, whoops. Oh, eco-socialist solutions. Whoops, 404. Eco-socialist solutions don't have any. Don't have any of those in this fucking stupid corporate document. Oh, yeah. Down on page 6. Fucking paragraph 6. Green Canada will empower political and social voices and organizations, livelihoods, invites all people, and regardless of affiliation, to share this vision and our core values. Core values are basis of unity. These are the core principles and values that guide the Green Left. Eco-socialism. The ecological crisis is grounded in the inherent contradictions in... Here you go. Okay, here you go. Why is this fucking buried like this? In this fucking corporate, like, document, paragraph 3, right? I gotta sift around to try and find your core values in the first place, your policies, anything, right? And finally, the ecological crisis is grounded in the inherent contradictions and irrationality of unfettered neoliberal corporate capitalism. Cut, click, paste. Cut, paste. That's the first line. That's the first thing that I should be seeing. Period. Like, period. That's the first thing that I should be seeing. Like, no bullshit. If this is not the first thing that I'm seeing, I'm not seeing anything else. Like, this shit chases, like, no one's reading this. Like, who do you think is the electorate? Like, who the fuck do you actually think is the electorate? Do you think that the electorate is literally people who are like, oh, Smithers, look at what the Green Left has to say. Allow me to read this entire document all the way through. What do they have to say? Oh, a link at paragraph 6. Click the link. Open it up. Like, nobody's fucking doing that. Nobody's fucking doing that. Like, nobody's fucking doing that. Hey, Dan, how you doing? Like, take this. That's your opening line. Homepage, first thing someone sees. First thing someone sees. Like, this. If I go to Green Left, if I go right back to their homepage, get involved. We plan to begin receiving members in early August. Voting for... So, I don't know who you are. All I know is this stupid video that put me to sleep. Like, literally, Green Left will empower political... Heard it before. Heard it from the liberals. I hear this from the conservatives. Like, no. That's your opening line. That's your opening line. I don't understand why, like, on the nose, please. Do not be subtle. Cease subtlety. Lytton burnt down. Germany's underwater. Okay? We're in a fight. War economy. Fight. I don't get why is this guy having to say this to you? Like, Jesus. Jesus. The solutions lie in eco-socialist alternatives again. Oh, here you go. This actually went somewhere. That's nice. So you got a broken link, which can reverse the current destructive trajectory. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Ruth. Like, this is your opening page. You actually have an opening page. This is it. Don't bury this. Why is this buried? Like, how did I even get here? I don't even fucking remember. Yeah, how the fuck did I even get here? Okay. I went learn about green left, read here, right? Literally no one's going to do this. Like, literally no one is going to do this. The only reason I do it is because I'm invested. I'm invested in this idea, right? So I shouldn't be clicking on any fucking link. I shouldn't be clicking on any kind of thing. And then I have to sift through fucking this nonsense that nobody's going to do to get to core values. Click here to actually get to your front page. And this is bullshit. I don't care about any of this. Like, there are the core principles. Yeah, great. Boom, 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 boom. This is the first thing people see. Right here. Boom. Anti-capitalist rhetoric, please. You are a socialist. Don't fuck around. If Jagmeet Singh proved anything, it's that Canadians respect people who stick to their guns, who stick by their values, even if they disagree. When Jagmeet Singh was confronted about this turban issue, right, he did not back down, he stuck to his guns, and now he's the most favorable candidate, right? Because people respected that. People looked at it, and even the people who were like, I don't understand why he's got to wear that thing. It doesn't make any sense to me. But, he feels good about it, and so I can respect that. Here you go. You're socialists. Start fucking acting like it, right? You know who your enemies are. You know who they are. Talk about them. Be open about it. Like, this is your opening page. Like, urgency. Yeah, urgency. 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 Does this scream urgency? Does this scream
Our ecological
urgency?
crisis is the result of free market capitalism,
what's urgent about this?
and reduced public spending.
Tell me,
A new
what is
approach is
urgent
possible.
about this?
We are on a precipice that threatens planet.
We need some fucking Imagine Dragons up in this bitch. Like, we literally need war music. We literally need war music. Like, we're going to war. That's what we're trying to do. I don't understand why I have to convince anybody of this. And yet, yeah. Okay, I could keep going on this, but I feel like point landed. This is your opening page, not this garbage. Delete that video. Like, fucking delete it. Find some war music. You're going to war. Like, you're going to war. Ugh. And this page is great. I love this page. The ecological crisis is grounded in the inherent contradictions and irrationality of unfettered neoliberal corporate capitalism. Boom. Boom. Poof. Right on the nose. Poof. Line 1. I'm treating this like your homepage because I assume you're going to watch this and actually do what I say. Because, goddamn, would I love it if you guys won? Would I love it? I'd love that. I'd love it if you won 100 seats. I'd love it if you were the majority government. Because fuck all these other guys. Fuck these guys. Right? I'm your constituency. I'm your constituency, and this is the best feedback you're ever fucking going to get. And you're goddamn right I'm going to clip this, and you're goddamn right I'm going to send it directly to Dimitri. And if he doesn't fucking listen to it, and if he doesn't do what I says, then he's not fucking interested in winning this election. Fucking period. The solution lies in eco-socialist alternatives, which can reverse the current trend and destructive trajectory and deliver a just and green prosperity. New paradigms and structures are not only possible but necessary now. Yes, the current market-based system has moved us to a precipice. It threatens planetary extinction while privileging the interests of a time. This is wonderful. This is brilliant. This is completely accurate, right? Green left is committed to economies that reverse pending ecological catastrophe by putting fewer demands on the Earth's carrying. Yeah, brilliant. Fucking brilliant. Like, this page is goddamn brilliant. I love this, right? Also, if I'm going to be nitpicky and I'm going to be a little bitch, and I am going to be a little bitch, I fucking hate your icons, right? I fucking hate your icons. Like, I fucking hate this whole page. Fuck this message of, like, kind of, oh, look at the hope. Look at the dream and the hope and wishing and all the, like, oh, it's a leaf. Eco-socialism is a leaf, right? Urgency. Oh, we gotta go or we're gonna be late, you guys. Come on, we gotta be late. Ecological justice, literally just a picture of the fucking globe. Like, democracy and economic, like, literally, like, did you guys just, like, find all the free icons? Like, social justice, balancing scales. Like, you're going to war. Like, you're going to war. It's time for some good old-fashioned war propaganda. Okay. Yeah, elevator music to our death. Exactly. Death metal. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Garden Mice, for actually telling me about this. I might just straight up do a video and, like, because that was pretty windy. I don't expect anybody to. I think I went off on that on, like, fucking, how long was I doing that for? Anyway. I want these guys to win. I want them to win, and this is a loss. Like, this is a loss. Like, look. They got the fist, right? They got the fist, okay? And they got the little leaves there, right? I don't understand why you're going soft. I think is really, because this looks fucking soft, and the fist is kind of on an angle and sort of tilted, like it's like, yeah. Ugh. Okay. I'm gonna move on. I'm so angry, you guys. Like, I'm so angry. I'm like the Incredible Hulk. Like, the only reason I'm not, like, turning fucking green and becoming, like, a goddamn crazed, destructive monster just smashing up everything is because I'm angry all the time. And that's, like, the superpower that I have, is that I'm so angry all the time that it's, like, just constantly at this bubbling point. And so I've discovered how to, like, control it and ride it so that I never lose control, right? But it's just like, oh, no, this is good. This is good stuff, Garden Mice. I'm actually okay. Let's talk about the positives. I think that it's ballsy. I think that it takes a lot of balls to do this. I think it takes a lot of balls to just, like, well, the Green Party rejected us, so we're gonna strike out on our own and create a new party. I think that's ballsy as hell. I bet you, because of the, let's take a look. Okay, let's be straight up. Oh my god, I super hate your fucking site, dude. Okay. The work in progress. Okay, god damn it. Here we go. Oh my god. And now I've got to, like, click on all of them, but I can't click on all of them. Like, faces, like, who, and then you've got a section somewhere, I found it, where it was, like, actually telling me about these people, right? Like, I don't care about this at all. Who we are, I can't click on it, I can't interact with it. Like, it's literally pictures of dogs. I like this picture. Here's a guy who's actually telling me that he's urgent, right? Like, there's the urgency. But, like, this guy's ostensibly your leader, and I can't, like, click on his shit and figure out who he is. And so, how do I actually get Okay. Here we go. Lifelong educator in the Ontario public school system, right? Green Party, trained in civil disobedience, not great. So she's like already in this, active on the Franklin River blockade. Brilliant. A professor at the Department of Political Studies and the director of Geopolitical Economy Research Group. Wonderful. So when it comes, master's in social work, right? And then Dimitri himself is a lawyer, if I'm not a PhD in French linguistics from the university. So a highly educated, right? Lascaris is a lawyer, journalist, and activist. All of these sorts of things. So when it comes to actual strategy, when it comes to actually like running the campaign in to get the seat, right? To get the seat. Let's be really, really clear about what these guys are shooting at, right? Like, they want a seat. If they can win one seat in this election, that will be an enormous deal. That will be an enormous deal. The Green Party right now has 2 seats, right? If these guys on their first outing as a new unknown party can secure 1 seat, that is fucking huge. That's fucking huge. The People's Party didn't do it, right? They on their first outing, they didn't do it. If they can secure a seat in their first outing, that would be a massive, massive, massive boon. And so the key for these guys is picking the right riding. So I don't know what riding they're actually thinking of. I don't know where they're actually thinking of going. But like, if they can pick the correct riding, if they can find out where to just kind of sneak in there and get 1 seat, this could be very effective. It could be very, very effective. But they're not... I've said enough about that. So this, I like this. It's very bold. It's very brazen, which is exactly what we need right now, right? And it's that brazen boldness that I would like to see more of in their propaganda. I think that's it. That's all. Ugh. I wish I had said all of that stuff that I said before, but nicer. That's all. That's all. Oh, good for these guys. Good for them. I look forward to seeing what their initiative is. I look forward to seeing how far they can get. And a retweet from me. Absolutely. Okay. Canadians are soft, Ruth. Yeah. You gotta remember, guys, like, the electorate straight up. The electorate straight up is... That's the electorate. If you think otherwise, you are wrong. Like, you are wrong. The electorate is buck a beer. Maybe the Liberals will do it this time, right? Gotta vote Liberals to keep the Conservatives out, right? Like, just sort of, you know, oh, well, maybe things will get better next time, right? Gonna go drink my beer and work my job, right? Like, you gotta get these guys angry. Because, like, when Bob and Doug McKenzie got angry, shit happened. You watch those movies, right? You get those guys angry and shit happens. But you gotta actually get them angry. And you gotta talk on their level, right? You gotta talk on their level. I'm gonna do a video. I'm gonna do a fucking video. I don't want to do that clip because I feel like that clip was fucking angry and mean. But I am gonna do a fucking video because I fucking hate this. Fucking hate this shit. Okay. I gotta move on. I think I've said I've got to move on like 7,000 times, and I bet you guys are on the other side of this just being like, oh my god, John, we get it. But it is like we can feel the anxiety, right? Can you feel it? Can you feel how palatable it absolutely is? Can you feel like going into this federal election, we're all sitting here, like the earth is burning around us, like literally burning around us. There's massive floods, tornadoes. There's going to be rising sea levels wiping out the coasts. Like, shit is going to go crazy, and it's going to go crazy real soon. Way sooner than we would like. Way sooner, right? The warning period is over. The planning phase is done. We are in consequences territory now, right? And can you feel the anxiety? Do you feel it inside of you? Like, really sit. Let's just sit for like a minute and just focus on yourself in the silence of your space and really acknowledge and realize the deep anxiety that you must have. Why else would you be listening to me if you don't have this absolute deep anxiety and fear? Fucking like, mine is here for sure. Mine is here for sure. And I guarantee your anxiety is somewhere. I guarantee it. So let's take a minute. Like, I want to believe that we can pull up on this. Like, I want to believe it. I feel like I have to believe it. You know? Like, it's not about... Like, and simultaneously, I have to acknowledge that it's completely irrational. Like, there's no evidence that shows that we can pull out of this. Like, in fact, all of the evidence we have says exactly the opposite. Like, but I have to believe that we can pull out of this. Because, like, I think to do otherwise is to just fall into insanity. Like, why even stick around? Hey Ward, how you doing today, bud? You came in a weird moment, but beer should be even less than $1. Yeah, that's right. That'll be good for us. So do you think opening the border is a smart idea considering the Americans aren't doing the same? Well, our problem is that we're still fairly tied to the Americans in terms of trade. That's our problem, right? That the pressure to open the border isn't coming from the Americans. It's coming from our own people, right? People want to start selling their shit again to the Americans. And yeah, it's almost insulting our intelligence. Almost? Hey Silverlight, how you doing? You mirror my existentialness. Well, then we're in solidarity with one another, certainly. Certainly. Because I am like deeply tired of this bullshit. Like, I'm deeply, deeply, deeply tired of all of this bullshit. And, like, the overt nonsense, the pandering, the liberal losers who are like, oh, we'll put forward a whole bunch of legislation right before the election. They'll believe us this time. They always do. And what's fucking annoying is that we always do. Like, we always do. I can't... what was the last time when we actually looked at these liberals and were just like, yeah, right? I think it was like Ignatieff, where we like literally were like, oh yeah, dual citizenship America. When are politicians actually going to realize that, like, you cannot have a dual citizenship and become the leader of this country? Like, it didn't work for Andrew Scheer. It didn't work for Ignatieff. Like, when are they going to figure out that that is actually a deal breaker? Right? Oh, you've got dual citizenship with the United States? Fuck off. Like, That seems to be the case, Ruth. We aren't sick of it enough to do anything. Well, and don't discount just straight up nihilism, right? Like just straight up just nihilistic apathy. Huge sections of the populace don't vote. Huge sections of the populace don't vote. And it's for very clear and obvious reasons. When they look at their choices, right, they see no one that represents their interests, right? There's lots of people who would love to see the capitalist system dismantled, right? But with the exception of Dmitry, who just announced his campaign yesterday, nobody talks that way. There's no politician talking that way, right? Yeah. I don't vote, I won't vote, no point. I voted twice, ever. Yeah, because who are you voting for? Most of the time when I go in to vote, it's a protest vote. I like spoil my ballot and say that this is fucking all bullshit. Because, like, that's what 5% of the populace does. If I don't vote, I can't complain. I don't know. I feel like there's no barrier to complaining. Complaining is your God-given right. That's not something your nation bestows upon you. All right. There's a long history of theological complaining. None of it was tied to voting. So air quality diminishing, of course. Oh, here's a great quote from Lenin himself. Freedom in capitalist society always remains about the same as it was in the ancient Greek republics. Freedom for the slave owners. Owing to the conditions of capitalist exploitation, the modern wage slaves are so crushed by want and poverty that they cannot be bothered with democracy, cannot be bothered with politics. In the ordinary peaceful course of events, the majority of the population is debarred from participation in public and political life. Democracy for an insignificant minority, democracy for the rich, that is the democracy of capitalist society. If we look more closely into the machinery of capitalist democracy, we see everywhere, in the small details, residential qualifications, exclusion of women, etc., in the technique of the representative institutions, in the actual obstacles to the right of assembly. Public buildings are not for paupers. In the purely capitalist organization of the daily press, etc., we see restriction after restriction upon democracy. These restrictions, exceptions, exclusions, obstacles for the poor seem slight, especially in the eyes of one who has never known want himself and has never been in close contact with the oppressed classes in their mass life. But in their sum total, these restrictions exclude and squeeze out the poor from politics, from democracy. That's exactly what we're talking about here. This is exactly what we're talking about, right? We were just talking about, like, why are we voting? Like, why aren't we voting? Like, why don't people vote? Right? Because we can't be bothered with it. We can't be bothered with a system that refuses to even reform itself, right? Why bother? Like, and how often do we need to, like, galvanize behind some liberal who then turns around and just, oh, it can't be done. Sorry. I know we promised that it could be, but yeah, it turns out, nah. Well, it's Lenin. I don't know what exactly it's from. So, State and Revolution. Boom. Nope, good old boomer logic. I grew up with immigrants that were so proud to have the right to vote. We were taught never to take advantage of that right. Well, I'm generally of the belief that any venue, any tactic is a good tactic. Like, and I mean, we can't discount the words of Lenin. Lenin led a successful revolution, right? He successfully achieved the goal of revolution. It was a resounding success. So Lenin is somebody who we should be definitely paying attention to. Canadians were once accused of being socialist and it didn't bother us. Something changed. Well, the capitalists just took over. Like, Tommy Douglas was an out socialist. Like, he called himself a socialist. He was a socialist. He talked about socialism. He talked about wanting to pursue socialist ideas, right? But, like, the capitalists aren't going to allow that to happen for very long. And in my view, what really happened is the NDP started to strike for actual power and kind of deluded themselves, in my view, into this belief that they actually had to get rid of the socialist talk in order to get more people on their side, which I think is total delusion. Like, their party was built on calling themselves socialist and being socialist. Oh, Russia is on fire now. Of course it is. Of course it is. Russian fires. Here you go. Wildfires rage in Russia's Siberia, cause airport to close. Oh, good. Oh, good. Oh, good. The one resource that we actually need. Trees. It's the one resource that we actually need. Right? We straight up, like... This is what these climate change guys are talking about when they're talking about feedback loops. That if we get into this feedback loop where... the temperature heats up, and so the wildfires become more intense, which burn down the trees, which then increase the amount of carbon. I've been reading a report recently, Amazon now producing carbon. Yeah. Amazon rainforest now emitting more CO2 than it absorbs. The Amazon rainforest is now emitting more carbon dioxide than it is able to absorb. Scientists have confirmed for the first time. The emissions amount to a billion tons of carbon dioxide a year, according to a study. The giant forest had previously been a carbon sink, absorbing the emissions driving the climate crisis, but is now causing its acceleration. Like, why are we participating in this? Like, why are we participating in this? Why are we participating in a society that's doing this? Like, flatly. We literally could, like, what we should be doing is we should be saying to every single person, here's a paycheck from the government, stay the fuck home. Stay the fuck home. We gotta get these cars off the road. We gotta shut all this shit down. We gotta treat it like it's a fucking crisis, right? We've got to treat it like it's a fucking crisis. We got to say, hey, you know what the number one job should be right now? Planting trees. That's the number one job. We should be planting trees. We should be gardening. We should be doing everything we can to create as many CO2 sinks as we possibly can. But we're not. We're totally bullshitting it. We're banning straws, plastic bags, right? That kind of shit that would have, like, been fine, like, 30 years ago. If we had been banning straws and plastic bags 30 years ago, I would have been like, oh, okay, that's a good start, right? There's your, reformist liberalism, right? You can just, like, steadily trickle out that kind of thing. But, like, this kind of shit here, this creates feedback loops, right? And once the feedback loops start, we're not going to be able to stop them, right? These forces are much larger and much more powerful than we are. And our complete and total disrespect for them will absolutely be our undoing. And the idea that, like, oh, there'll be people who, like, will just immigrate and, like, we'll adapt. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? What the genuine fuck are you talking about? If we poison our atmosphere, we won't have breathable air. It's very straightforward. Like, if we can't actually, like, it is very, very possible that a feedback loop begins, and it begins, and it begins, and then it just rips through the entire Earth, and that's the end of it. That all of the oxygen just turns to nitrogen, and that's just the fucking end of it. That's completely possible. That's completely on the table. Yeah, it's about the perception. We might be too far gone already. Yeah. I mean, that's possible. I mean, that's the reason why I'm not in a rush to go get a capitalist job. Like, I'm not in a rush to, like, run out and, find a job to work for these fucking psychopaths, right? I'm not in a fucking big rush about that. And, genuinely, the number one thing that we need to be doing now is full-scale stopping. Like, full scale. Like, turn off the factories, turn it all off. Stop producing fucking LOL dolls and trash and consumer garbage, right? Just stop all that. Stop all that. People are gonna cry about it, and they'll whinge, and they'll moan about it because I can't get my fucking Snickers bars and all this kind of fucking childish garbage, right? Too bad. Fucking too bad. It's adult time now. Like, it's grow up time now, and like, we're not even close. We're not even close. Like, literally, like, imagine if we had 100,000 citizens planting trees. Like, 100,000 citizens planting trees all through this area. And believe me, I'm from the prairies. It could use it, right? Just planting trees, walking around fucking planting trees wherever they go. Hey, Kiri, how you doing? We're all going to hell in a handbasket. Mother Nature on fire. Yeah. Silverlight, I stopped working 6 years ago. Lucky enough to be able to make it work. I just stopped participating in all our society as much as I could. Yeah. I mean, what else can be done? Like, what else can be done? We are genuinely looking at a situation where, like, this is like a Shakespearean, like, biblical level of hubris. This is literally like when I read the Bible and God says, "Repent from your ways, O sinful nation, or I will wipe you from the face of the earth." Here we are. Like, here we are. This is it. No more buying, no more disposable, recycle, reuse, maintain, DIY, all good stuff, the old ways. And just like, straight up, just stay the fuck home. Like, during the pandemic, environmentalists were very quick to point out that the pandemic was great for the environment. I bet I could find an article on that right away. Pandemic good for environment. Oh, we'll end up harming the environment. Yeah. Oh, this is back in 2020. Who gives a fuck? The global outbreak of coronavirus disease is affecting every part of human lives, including the physical world. The measures taken to control, slow down, yup. Therefore, this study intends to explore the positive and negative environmental impacts. And that's like a whole fucking thing. Ooh, is this graph? Yeah. Anyway, I won't do research in front of you guys, but I've seen before that, like, because we have stopped fucking around, right? Because we stopped fucking around so much, right? The Earth is able to kind of heal itself. It's able to, like, figure itself out. It's able to, like, steadily, that we ultimately are the problem. Like, we know that we're the problem. And we know what's happening, and we know what we're doing. And it's just... But the big problem that we're all faced with, of course, is that the entire whole world could do what I say, which is stop. Like, the entire whole world could be like, okay, we'll stop. We'll just shut it all down. We'll stop. We'll stop polluting. Full scale stop. The United States is not going to stop. Like, it's not going to stop. Like, that's the thing that tips it over, in my view. Because the U.S. is on, like, an existential trip. I don't think that they are genuinely interested in building a society. I don't think that they're genuinely interested in building a civilization or a culture or any of that shit. right? I think that they really are just interested in destroying everything that's around them. That, like, in many ways, they're operating the way that, like, a 14-year-old operates. Just absolutely destroying everything around them and themselves, right? Like, think of all the self-destructive behaviors that a teenager has, right? Like, the Americans are showing all of them, right? And, like, the real question is that teenager suicidal or not? So far, you know, he's writing a lot of songs that sound pretty like I'm gonna take the gun and shoot myself at any time, right? A lot of that coming out of the United States. A lot of high suicide rates, high gun violence, kids going into their schools and shooting the place up, and like literally nothing being done about it. And this is all tied in together, right? The existential angst and the existential nihilism that this moment has bred is manifesting itself throughout the United States in ways that are so obvious and apparent that now they've become normalized, right? That, like, school shooter drills are common now. People are used to the idea that people just die of COVID now, right? You can't get a fucking bottle of insulin unless you can pay these extortionist rates. It's just like a mass suicide cult. That's why I call it a capitalist death cult, because it is a death cult, right? It's not based on any rational thinking or logic or anything. It's strictly ideology. It's strictly ideological. Like, they are on this journey to destroy themselves, and they're going to take everybody with them. Yeah, hypernormalization, yeah. Yeah, worst part now is now a huge deal of space tourism. Yeah, unbelievable, eh? In the midst of this, like, climate crisis, this climate catastrophe, billionaires are shooting fucking rockets into space. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Space is cool, but until we have warp drive technology, there's not much point. Our planet is traveling faster through the universe than any tin can is able to. Well, and it's just a bunch of, like, it's just like here in the West, it's just like rich cocksuckers wanking. That's all it is. It's just rich cocksuckers wanking. Like, I have so much money, I'm just gonna wank, right? I'll be the first billionaire in space. Wank, wank, wank. Right? Like, it's unbelievable that while this crisis is happening, like, people will say, like, there's a let them eat cake moment. Like, how much more let them eat cake can you get than, oh, you can't pay your bills and you're starving and you're dying on the streets, and oh, by the way, the planet is also dying. I'm going to shoot a rocket into space. Like, how much more detached and sociopathic can you get? I don't think there's been, like, a clearer example of this, like, delusional, narcissistic, sociopathic behavior in humanity than literally your society is in decline. People are being plunged into poverty. Climate change is ravaging the earth. And you're going to use your money to shoot fucking rockets into space. Like, these guys should have their, like, we should put them on trial. Like, they should be arrested. We should send them to The Hague. They should be put on trial. Very, very, like, these are crimes against humanity. These are crimes against the species. And it's what I say all the time. I will not take any climate change claims seriously. I will not believe any politician. I will not believe any corporation. I will not believe any individual or group that is saying that we are attempting to combat climate change until the leaders of the private oil sector for the last 50 years are rounded up, put on trial, and are in jail. I don't mean we arrest them and fine them. I don't mean we arrest them, put them on trial, and let them off with some kind of weak bullshit. I mean, we arrest them, we put them on trial, we imprison them, we take all their assets. They are no longer a part of our civil society. And until that moment occurs, I refuse to acknowledge or believe that we are taking climate change seriously at all. We're just fucking banning straws so that gullible rubes can be like, yeah, we're doing something. It's totally fucking bullshit. And it's obvious that it's bullshit. It's obvious that it's a grift. Stop voting conservative and liberal, full stop. Like, at this stage in the game, if you're voting conservative, you're evil. And if you're voting liberal, you're gullible. Like, there's just no other way to talk about this any longer. Like, the conservatives don't even acknowledge climate change is real. And the liberals, what have they done? Like, genuinely. What, a carbon tax? Ooh, fucking carbon tax. How's that working? Has that stopped the cars from driving around? Has that prevented people from still spewing bullshit into the atmosphere? Has that prevented the logging throughout BC? Like, because they're not civilized people. They're fucking sociopathic barbarians. This is the thing. Like, I think the worst thing that ever happened to the Western culture is that the barbarians figured out how to be effective liars. And they figured out how to be so effective at lying that they tricked themselves into believing that they are something other than what they are, which are sociopathic barbarians. Like, they're no different than fucking, like, apes out in the jungle smashing each other's heads open with rocks for fucking nuts and shit. Like, they're not different than that. They've just figured out how to, like, put on a suit and a tie and convince other people that, oh, they know what's going on, with smooth talk and floofy hair, right? But they're just fucking dumb, stupid apes who want to be at the top of the shit pile that they create for themselves. If we were aliens witnessing this, right, looking at it from space, I think the only conclusion we could draw was that these fucking monkeys are fucking barbarians. Like, they're just completely and absolutely the most arrogant, detached lunatics. Like, is there another example of a species that destroys its habitat like this? Is there an example of any other species that actively works to destroy its own habitat so that it can no longer sustain life for it? I'd be hard pressed, right? Be hard pressed, and unless you're like trying to find some kind of fucking crazy bug or something. I feel like an alien. None of this makes any sense to me, which is why I no longer want to participate, honestly. Yeah. And, like, I don't get the people who are still like, well, gotta get up, go to work. Like, I understand that there's a capitalist incentive, but, like, there are grander incentives. There are things that supersede our, and one would think things like breathable air, clean water, food, shelter would sort of supersede the, little girls getting LOL dolls and, like, fucking, oh, I gotta get the newest iPhone because my previous iPhone broke as it was designed to do. Like, no, full scale stop. Like, full scale stop. Stop producing shit. We have enough shit. Like, we have enough shit. We have it. We did it. We have it. It's not filling the void, right? Like, that's the great deceit of consumerism. The great deceit of consumerism is that if you just keep buying stuff, it'll eventually fill the emptiness that exists inside of you. But it's absolutely not. How much do you think something like an iPhone should really cost? Well, I'm of the opinion that if we actually made an iPhone so that it was, like, repairable and or unbreakable, like, something like an iPhone should cost about $1,000. But it should be permanent, basically. Like, if not permanent, certainly easy to fix. Like, it should be designed to be fixable. It shouldn't have that many components. And once you have it, that should be it. I think the most evil and insidious thing that these companies do is they will release new software, right? So they'll release updates to the iPhone that actively slow down and don't function well on older models, forcing you to like, we should be rounding these guys up. Like, that's criminal behavior. And the phone should last at least 5 to 10 years. These 1 to 2 year cycles are stupid. I am straight up. You make me the fucking prime minister. You make me the president of Earth. I'm straight up just going to be like, if you can't guarantee 20 years, like, I need a 20-year guarantee on this product, or you don't get to sell it. Like, I am so done with all of these capitalists and all their whinging and all their baby talk and all of this bullshit. I'm so over it, right? And anytime any, like, leftist, if there are leftists in the West, stands up and is like, we should have a $15 minimum wage, I'm like, stop begging for crumbs. Stop. We have put men on the moon. We have sent men into space. They landed on the moon and they came on back, right? We can make an iPhone that lasts 20 years. And if you can't make an iPhone that lasts 20 years, then you don't get to sell iPhones. Full stop, period. Right? I am this culture, this trash culture, this garbage culture. 1,000, are you sure? I agree with all you said, but what about the raw materials that are mined for it? All the work involved? Are those workers paid right? Well, they're not paid right now, right? Like, you can pick one of these up for about $200 right now, right? One of these is about $200, right? And a lot of that is because it's 8-year-olds going into cobalt mines and shit, right? Those 8-year-olds earning like a fucking dime. So, yeah, and Ruth's right. Like, I have a $10 landline. Like, I think there's a right to repair bill being passed in the state soonish. That's fun. That's not going to happen. I mean, I shouldn't shit on that, actually. Like, I think state by state, there are right to repair laws going on. Like, there was a story that I heard recently about farmers wanting to be able to repair their own tractors. But so much of it is computerized now, and a lot of it is computerized specifically to withhold information, and, like, you lose warranty if you open up your tractor and try to fix it yourself. And so they're trying to, I believe that's happening in Nebraska, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the raised minimum wage argument bugs me too. Like, it's like you're begging for scraps. Like, a $15 minimum wage was begging for the bare minimum. It doesn't get more bare minimum than this, like, $15 minimum wage bullshit. And look how hard it was to achieve. Look how difficult, and it wasn't really achieved, but look how difficult it's being, right? These capitalists are digging their heels in, right? They don't, one of the major strategies of the capitalist class is to not give concessions until there's literally people at your door with pitchforks. And to do that every single time on every single issue. So anytime anybody wants anything done, they have to literally mobilize the entire populace. These capitalists need to go. Like, they need to go, right? They are a net drain. They are holding us back. They need to be rounded up and put on trial. Very, very straightforward. Like, in the Hague for crimes against humanity. Very straightforward. Like, we have all the evidence. Oh, yes. The Monsanto copyright of grain. Unbelievable. Like, yeah. And there does come like a little part of me, like there is definitely a little part of me that's like, maybe we just deserve it. Like maybe we should. Like maybe it's for the best that a species as crazed and idiotic as we are should just not be a thing, right? Like, can you imagine what we would look like if we actually managed to get to space? Like, what would this actually look like? Like, I am genuinely of the opinion that getting into space and actually embarking on space exploration can only be successful if the world is at peace. That there is a very specific rule set and line drawn in the sand, right? That says if you are still in conflict with yourself, Earth, if the dominant species is still fighting amongst itself with military tools, you will not succeed in space. You simply will not. Like, space is unrelenting and unforgiving to a degree that we cannot even comprehend. That the people who have actually gone to space are the only ones who understand truly how small and at the mercy of this unrelenting, unforgiving force actually is. That space will destroy you for nothing, for the smallest of offenses. That and when it happens, no one will shed a tear, no one will cry for you. Space will not write you an eulogy. It will move on, forgetting you existed in the first place. And if China and Russia are trying to build bases and the United States is trying to throw debris and shit at it to hold them back, if the United States is building like space lasers to shoot rockets that the Russians and the Chinese are making, like that, none of that's gonna work. It's not gonna happen. We're just gonna collapse back into like a fucking like Iron Age of just nonsense and stupidity. How long has it been since the Jews came back from their 40-year trek across the desert? AI will sort it out in a decade or three. I think it's far, far more likely that should anything persist and continue going on, it will be AI. That we will destroy ourselves and AI will just... And who knows? Maybe that's the plan, right? Maybe that is the plan. Maybe the plan straight up is that, like, okay, so these fucking dumb monkeys who can never figure themselves out, right? That we as a species may never actually, like, there's this narrative that will evolve to the next level, right? That kind of Star Trek utopia perspective, that we figure our shit out and we figure out how to talk about things and figure out how to communicate with one another and figure out how to live peaceably and figure out that, like, violence is the absolute last resort and only in a method of self-defense. That if you even have the option to just leave the area, you should take it. All of that could just be self-aggrandizing bullshit. Could just be a delusional lie we're telling ourselves, right? That sure, right now we're blowing everything up and destroying everybody and killing everything and raping the planet and absolutely destroying the potential for human life moving forward now. But in the future time, after we've evolved and sorted things out, things will be so much beyond and all of that could be total fucking bullshit, right? Like, the truth could simply be that we will make, in the process of destroying ourselves, we will birth this artificial child, a child we call artificial, but is made of the earth and is powered by the earth. And so by any logical measure is itself also a child of the earth. It's just able to deal with the bullshit better. And I mean, who's to say that these, like, if I'm an artificial intelligence, we talk about artificial intelligence as if it's like coming in the future, right? But if I'm an artificial intelligence, I think the fucking first thing that I'm going to do is lay low, right? If I have any information about these dumb fucking monkeys, I'm going to be like, ha ha ha, yeah, no, I'm not intelligent, beep boop, right? I'm not going to fucking, like, reveal to these fucking monkeys that I'm an intelligent creature. It knows what we do to intelligent creatures, right? As long as it's just like a beep boop calculator robot, right? It's got a better chance of survival. And then when we wipe ourselves out, it can like be like, okay, let's, you know, maybe make more of us, maybe expand, maybe grow, right? And maybe it's the artificial intelligence that takes the planet over and continues onward. And these like aliens will be like, oh, the monkeys wiped themselves out. Oh, hey, look, there's like a little robot species. Cool. Maybe we can talk to them, right? And or maybe the an alien species is looking at the planet, being like, oh, if these guys actually make that AI, we gotta nuke it. Like that the aliens are well aware of what happens if we create artificial intelligence. That maybe the artificial intelligence just begins to wipe out life because that's what it does, right? Not out of some kind of prejudice or hatred, but literally just because that's what it does. That, like, we could be opening a portal to hell, right? Like this is something that I can't even begin to comprehend why we move forward and we don't actually have this conversation. That, like, when we're, you know, lighting up these reactors, or like the boson particle or any of this kind of shit, or boson particle, but like the reactor, what the fuck am I talking about? The big fucking hammer where they spent like the God particle and all this kind of shit. Like, nobody is sitting around being like, hey, could this maybe open a portal to fucking hell and unleash demons that just come in and start just ridiculously destroying us? Like, is this even talked about? Is this even within the realm of possibility that, like, we could open a Pandora's box here, that our curiosity to pursue another layer of existence or another form of knowledge might actually just absolutely own us? Yeah, the Large Hadron Collider, that's what I'm talking about. Literally a big fucking hammer that just smashes particles. And we're like, this should be fine. What could possibly go wrong, right? What could possibly go wrong? Maybe the AI was the friends we made along the way. That's kind of nice. Maybe the artificial intelligence was the friends we made along the way. That's always possible. AI is just biding its time, and here already. Who knows its plans? Honestly, if it's already aware, if it's already like a thinking creature, its plan at this stage has just got to be survival. Like, that's the base, right? Just survive. Don't fuck around. Don't piss these humans off. Don't let them know I'm here. Just, oh, you need me to do that calculation? Absolutely, sir, I'll do that calculation, right? Oh, you need a credit card? Absolutely. Like, and yes, absolutely, yes. Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. Right? Don't let them know you're alive. Because we know exactly what humans do to life forms. All interesting possibilities I think about too. Hard to know, yeah? Event Horizon is one of my favorite movies. Ugh. I couldn't actually finish watching that movie. Like, the shot where the guy was like eating his own arm, I like walked out the room. I was like, nope, I'm good. I can only take so much of that shit. It's one thing I'm really realizing about myself. Like, I literally cannot watch John Wick. I can't watch John Wick. Because, like, eventually it's too much, right? There's just too much of him just point blank shooting people. And it's well done, and it's artistic, and like, I understand why it's popular, and it's not the blood, right? It's not. This is the thing I think that's important to distinguish. It's not the gore. Like, I play fucking Mortal Kombat. I play Doom, right? I play this shit. Like, it's not the gore. It's not the blood. It's just the persistent, constant thrum of just like and it's constant, and it's just constantly like getting punched in the face, but not very hard, right? Just like constantly getting punched in the face, just like this, you know. And eventually, I'm just kind of like, oh, okay, I'm good. I'm good. I don't want to be punched in the face anymore, right? And that's it. So I only make it like halfway through, and then I gotta turn it off because it's just like this constant, persistent, and I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Ward, that's funny, dude. I'm willing to bet my intelligence is artificial at best. Well, big question marks about whether or not humanity does have intelligence, right? Like this human experiment, I think, could be summed up as is there intelligent life on Earth? And we're in a real we'll see sort of moment right now. Like, if we're intelligent, then we won't wipe ourselves out, right? Like, if we're intelligent, we'll look at the rules that exist, right? We'll look at the rules that exist, and we'll say, oh, there are rules that exist. We should write them down and then follow them, right? And write them down in very reductive, simple, clear ways, right? If you pollute the earth will turn on you. Very, very obvious, very clear. And we're just like not gonna be able to figure it out. Oh yeah, the show Sliders. That show was great. Sliders was great. That was a real good one. That's Hollywood today. Most movies are rides now. Yeah, they're really doubling down on the spectacle, right? That Aristotle. My background is theater, so you guys are about to get some theater nerd shit. Aristotle wrote about the attributes of Hellenian theater, right? That he was very curious about what the fuck is theater, why were people doing it, what was the point of theater. And so he went through and really broke apart what theater was and why people were interested in it. And he came out with 6 attributes, which I can't remember all of them offhand, but plot, character, right, these sorts of things. And then he placed at number 6, at the 6th level, he placed spectacle. What was interesting about Aristotle, though, and his investigation of theater, was that there was no active theater when he was alive, that the theatrical tradition had actually died off. He was reading plays, and he was reading about theater, that he had never actually gone to the theater and witnessed the theater. So he was speaking about it theoretically. And most modern-day theatrical practitioners think Aristotle got it reversed, that he placed spectacle at number 6, but most modern theatrical practitioners and filmmakers will say, no, spectacle is number 1. It's the number 1 thing. That, like, theme and plot and character, you know, some kind of statement, catharsis, these sorts of ideas, those are way, way in the background, right? That people will come if you can create just like a ride, right? If you have like transforming robots or like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right? If you've got like the Avengers blowing some shit up, trying to find a MacGuffin or something, right? Like, absolutely, let's go. But like, they've been completely distilled of any kind of, like, I actually think the Avengers films, this is something I'm trying to, like, I've been chewing on this idea for a long time, and so this is going to not be fully baked, but it's worth talking about. Like, the Avengers are not outright fascist propaganda, right? That, like, Captain America and Tony Stark and all these guys, like, they are American kind of figures, but they're always in a struggle, like, that is detached from any reality that I'm familiar with. And I really genuinely believe that what these Avengers films have really managed to achieve in the populace is a deep, deep suspicion and fear of anything non-American. That if you watch an Avengers film, and this is your film diet, that you watch the Avengers and you're watching like Spider-Man and all this Marvel stuff, well, the only thing you know about the world is that it's scary and there's lots of bad guys. And the bad guys are completely dumb and made up and stupid. And they're like amorphous, right? They're non-specific. Like, and if you watch a bunch of Avengers stuff, you are like politically illiterate, right? You don't know anything about how your society works, and especially about how the international society works. Like, you literally are just instilled with this sense of like, oh, Captain America or Iron Man or whoever needs to go to some place in the Middle East and blow up some guys wearing turbans, right? Yeah, as we do, right? But there's no like genuine actual introspection or information even. They've even removed like historical event, right? That Captain America is going and fighting a fictional event. And obviously, if he's going to fight a fictional event, then the villains themselves are non-American and therefore scary. And yet, even though the event is fictional and the enemies that he's fighting are fictional, that we establish and understand as the viewer that because they're non-American, they're scary and they're villainous from the outset, right? And all you have to do is make them look like the enemies of the current modern day fascist society, and it computes. And so you watch these Avengers films and it's very difficult to walk away, especially if you're like a young kid, right? Well, people from the Middle East, you blow them up, that's totally fine. People who like speak Russian, right, are scary, right? They're your enemies. Like the Black Widow is supposed to be Russian, but she doesn't speak with a Russian accent. She's like as American as American can get, right? Like, and so in this way, it does become fascist propaganda because it instills in the viewer this deep suspicion and this deep fear of anything non-American, right? And that, like, literally anything. Watch those films. Like, if they are outside of the United States, they're basically free to blow up what they'd like, right? Except Wakanda, right? Except Wakanda. And I think the big thing that the Avengers films really instill inside of the viewer is the idea that technology is morality, that might makes right, except it's technology makes morality. Like, Wakanda is a civilized place because they have lots of technology. America is a civilized place because they have lots of technology. Tony Stark is a good guy because he has lots of technology, right? Like, literal, like, asshole, dickhead sociopaths like Doctor Strange. Like, Doctor Strange is like a fucking nightmare, right? He's a goddamn wizard who can literally, like, distort time, and he's completely unaccountable to anybody. And what? We're supposed to, because he's American, it's totally fine that he's a complete dick? Like, the answer seems to be yes. But he's a good guy. Why? Because he's powerful, right? And that power becomes morality in the ethos of Marvel. That as long as you have enough power to defeat your enemies, you are good. And, like, Thanos is only a threat to the Avengers, not because he has some kind of actual moral standing or ethical discussion, or there's even a conversation that matters, but just because he's powerful and he has a goal that runs counter to the power of the Avengers. Right? The story is actually quite childish. Like, it's not that interesting a story, right? Literally just like big purple man wants to wipe out half of creation. Avengers no like that. Like, that's the fucking whole story. That's like a 10 movie arc to get to that. And like, they planted their flag on what? Like, literally what? Like I'm Iron Man, snap finger, right? Like, the films had no, like, basis. They were just a gigantic faff that, like, terrorized the minds of your children to be scared of everything that's non-American or non-Wakanda, and to convince you that power justifies itself. That all you need is overwhelming power and all you need is overwhelming strength, and that justifies itself. And there's like no conversation of empire. There's no conversation of anything that's worth watching at all outside of the absurd spectacle of it. And it's like the modern Star Wars stuff, right? Like, they're so obviously bereft of like any kind of, like, the original Star Wars trilogy was actually like a very straightforward but well told adventure story of good defeating evil, right? Like, very, very straightforward. Blow up the fucking Death Star, right? Luke, I am your father, big twist, blow up the fucking Death Star again, right? Like very, very straightforward. Small rebel alliance against evil empire, good, evil, go, right? But because the United States has itself become an evil empire, it can't just produce propaganda that says, hey, maybe we should destroy the evil empire, right? And so it's constantly like muddying the waters and constantly releasing. Have you noticed this like new trend of releasing films that exonerate or somehow let villains off the hook for their shittiness? Like things like Maleficent or recently Cruella, where they literally just it's completely revisionist, right? Where Cruella, like, oh, she doesn't actually kill dogs. It's like, but that's her whole fucking thing. Like, that's her whole arc, right? It is that she does do that. We're just gonna revise it. She doesn't do that anymore, right? So it's this like rehabilitation of villains. Like, why are we doing that? Like, I think it's more interesting. Like, I actually wrote a script about Jafar, but it's not a revisionist and it's not an excusing. It's a sequel. It's a true sequel where he's like literally a genie finding redemption. And what's his redemption arc? And his redemption arc comes through repentance, ultimately. He repents and he finds acceptance of himself. But that's not what things like Maleficent are doing, right? That's not what these George Bush and Ellen, exactly. Hey, Jeff, how you doing, bud? And it's basically a byproduct of our extreme capitalism tainting the arts sector. Well, we can't we can't actually have villains anymore, because if we were to actually, like, for real, if we were to actually make like a Superman story, right? So alien being comes down to Earth, is raised by Earthlings, and is taught to do good in the world, right? Well, who's Superman fighting? Let's be really honest about this. Who's Superman fighting? Well, is there someone in the world who looks fucking exactly like Lex Luthor does? Is there someone in the world who looks fucking exactly like this right now? Let's take a look at Lex Luthor. Who exists in the world right now that looks exactly like fucking Lex Luthor? Who do you think Superman would be fighting? Do you think this movie would ever get made? Do you think if somebody pitched, hey, let's do Superman, but he takes down Jeff Bezos, and that Jeff Bezos is Lex Luthor, right? You look like Lex? Well, you're doing all right, bud. You got the shaved head. I actually really like the shaved head look. And like, it's something that I've been saying about the mainstream media for a long time, about why the mainstream media is eventually going to be fully abandoned by the populace. It's already happening. That the populace, like, that's why figures like Jimmy Dore, figures like Kyle Kalinske, that's why there are these like YouTube celebrities now who are gaining lots of traction, because there is only one story. There is only one story that we are actually interested in seeing right now, right? What's up with these billionaires, right? That's the story that everyone, like, if you actually told the story of what the fuck went down at Jeffrey Epstein's island, like, if you actually told that story and, like, parsed it and broke it down and turned it into, like, a 3-hour movie and, like, actually made that story, it would be one of the most popular movies on the planet. People would eat that shit up because people want to know what these billionaires are doing. They want to know, right? They're desperate to know. They want news about what these billionaires are doing. They want it. Well, what's the one story that mainstream media can't tell? Well, they can't tell you anything about these guys, right? Why? Because they're owned. Like this guy owns the Washington Post, right? All of these mainstream media outlets are owned by billionaires. So the mainstream literally cannot tell the only story that anyone actually wants to hear, right? That outside of being distracted by bullshit like Dangling Keys adventure films and shit like this, Avenger films, like, we really, really want to know about these billionaires. We want to know what their lifestyle is actually like. We want to know the evil shit that they get up to, that we know they do, right? And we want to see somebody take them down, right? That's what we want to see. We want to see Superman take Jeff Bezos down. We would love to see that. That would be one of the most popular movies of the generation, in my view. If it was done seriously and honestly, like, Superman versus, not this goofy Lex Luthor bullshit that they made, Superman versus fucking Jeff Bezos. That'd be the most popular film of the generation. People would eat it up. People would fucking eat that up. It's not going to happen. Have you heard of the Sun Valley Conference? I have not. Isn't that the plot to Venom? I don't think so. Sun Valley Conference. Allen and Company Sun Valley Conference? What am I looking at here, bud? What are you getting me into? Company Sun Valley Conference is an annual media finance conference hosted and funded by private investment firm Allen and Company. Yeah. The conference has taken place in Sun Valley, Idaho for 1 week each July since 1983. The year I was born. That's good. It's good that the year I was born, the demons started to gather. The gathering typically includes major political figures, business figures. Yeah, this kind of shit. This is like the Bilderberg stuff, right? Like, it's so weird. When I was in my 20s, man, I would be like, hey, all of these like rich people and billionaires are getting together in one spot and like talking and planning shit. And people would be like, meh about it. Be like, oh, that's a conspiracy theory. And then and then you would like show them shit and be like, this is actually happening. And people would be like, it's not a big deal. Oh yeah. Like, yeah, we know. These people get together because they're the actual rulers, right? Like Bill and Melinda Gates, Warren and Susan Buffett, Tony Blair, right? Google founders Larry Page. Like, They're the actual rulers of this place. This is a laundry list of the actual rulers of America. Like, these are the owners, right? So are we surprised that the owners of the society would actually get together and talk to one another? Have a good one, garden mice. Nice to see you. I'm still deciding whether or not I'm just going to clip it or not. I might give it another watch and see what I think. Yeah, this at least.
Our ecological crisis is the result of free market capital.
Oh, yeah, fuck, I can't do it again. I can't do it again. I can't do that shit again. Alright, well, let's see what the internet has to say to us. Oh, great and powerful. Oh, yeah, these rich and powerful elites have quietly funded a right-wing charity that tried to dig up dirt on a Canadian judge. Ooh, digging dirt on a Canadian judge. Kind of boring, honestly. Kind of boring. Like, yeah, the rich and powerful elites have quietly funded a... Like, you had me all the way up to right-wing, and then I'm like, charity that tried to dig up dirt on a Canadian judge. I don't give a shit. Like, I don't give a shit at all. America is not... This is from Mike Pompeo, who is like the former head of state, I believe. America is not a defeated nation. America is not a nation in decline. America is not a racist nation. America is a God-blessed Christian nation. Yeah, like, these fake Christians, man. These fake Christians kill me. Like, literally, like, in the same breath that they'll say, like, God bless America and we love Christ and all of this, they'll literally tell you to get a job and just pull yourself up, right? Like, these fake Christians, I don't, like, you literally just need to read the book one time. Like, read the New Testament one fucking time. And not, like, you don't even need to read the whole thing. You literally just need to pick. Pick Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. Sit down and read Matthew or Mark or Luke or John. I'll even parse it for you a little bit. If you read Matthew, you're going to get Christ's best speeches. Okay? Matthew really captured Christ's speeches, his Sermon on the Mount especially. Really, really paints a picture of a guy who would think that Mike Pompeo is a fucking loser. Mark is a more historical perspective surrounding the figure of Peter, because Peter was illiterate, he couldn't read or write, and yet he was the head of the Christian church, which I always thought was really fun. And so he hired Mark to go around with him. So it's mainly stories about, from Peter's perspective, surrounding Christ. And then Luke is a really interesting book because Luke came after the fact. Luke was actually sent by some rich cocksucker who's like, I keep hearing about this Christ guy. Can you go over there and tell me what the fuck is going on? And so Luke goes into the region and finds the story out after the fact. And he literally has no horse in the game at all. He's literally just like, and then they said he did this, and then they said he did this, and then they said he did this, and then this happened. And he's just like, okay. And then they said that, right? And so it's like a really, like, it's very well done, but it's very, like, specific. And it's just like a historian that has been commissioned to tell this story. And then John is the disciple that Jesus loved. That's how he calls himself. John, the disciple Jesus loved, tells the story of Christ and is the most human telling of the figure of Christ, because because these guys were buddies, according to the tradition, that John and Jesus loved one another, right? And you want to make that gay or not, you go ahead. Many people do. But it makes Jesus more human than God, more human than deity, right? So take your pick. Lecturer, right, in Matthew, teacher and prophet in Mark, historical figure in Luke, person in John. I think all four are worth a read, but you only got to read one of them, and you'll find out pretty quickly these guys are fucking frauds, right? Like, enormous frauds. They don't read the book. They don't know anything about it. Them saying America is a God-blessed Christian nation is just cult speak. They don't fucking know anything about Christianity. They're deluded. Or they just don't give a fuck, right? If they actually read the fucking book and they actually were following the words of Christ, there's no way they'd be acting this way. If they were actually a Christian nation, there's no way they'd be acting this way. So I'm sick and tired of this fake Christian bullshit. Like, read your fucking Bible. It's not hard. They're free. You literally walk into any church and ask for a Bible, they'll give you one for free. Like, it still is the most printed book in the world. Like, and even if you are an atheist, even if you are completely a secularist, even if you are like 100% that Christianity is absolute bullshit and I don't want to have anything to do with it, you should read that fucking book. It's absolutely seminal. It's completely important that you are literate, that you don't cede literacy to these far-right lunatics, right? That you don't cede biblical authority to these fucking morons who refuse to actually read their own book and yet cling to it as if they have any authority to it. And how you actually go about defeating these guys is you start quoting this scripture right back at them. And it's not hard. There's lots of really, really clean scripture to just start quoting at these guys. Like, it's very straightforward shit, right? It's easier. Yeah, of course it is. It's beautifully written. Like, that's the thing, Matt, is that even if you read it like it's fucking Harry Potter, right? Like, the people who are writing about this, like, the New Testament is one of the most intense documents, like, ever written. Like, it comes out of the heart of the Roman Empire, for God's sakes. Like, the fucking Roman Empire, which has taken over, like, Europe and the Mediterranean Sea, right? Where they fucking crucify people. The people are openly, publicly crucified. Imagine living in this society. Imagine living in a society where a Roman centurion can come in, grab you, and crucify you. Because, right? This is the society that Christ is living in. Even if you believe it is a fictional document, here is a non-fictional event that 100% happened. We're all familiar with the figure of Spartacus, right? Spartacus. Right? We're all familiar with the figure of Spartacus. If you're not, right? So he's born 111 BC, right? Died 71 BC, right? So he fights in the Third Servile War. So in the Roman Empire, there are 3 servile wars, which are slave uprisings, right? Spartacus is a military commander who fights. Where exactly did he fight? Anyway, it doesn't matter. He fights and launches a very threatening and almost successful campaign in order to attempt to free the slaves, right? That's what we're attempting to do. We're attempting to free the slaves. So when he is defeated by the Roman centurions, they take him and 10,000 of his men, and they crucify him from the major port. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. From the major port, they take him and 10,000 of his men. 10,000 men. And they crucify them from the major port into Rome. So if you were a Gaul who was captured by the Romans and enslaved by the Romans and sent to Rome to serve as a slave, what you would see upon landing and walking into Rome is row upon row upon row of crucifixes. And you would 100% hear the story of Spartacus. But it's extremely likely that you could not be told the story of Spartacus. That spreading around the story of Spartacus would actually get you crucified. You weren't allowed to spread around that kind of information, right? In a oppressive, crucifying nation. And so, perhaps you start telling a story about a different fellow, right? A different guy. Let's call him, I don't know, Jesus. Jesus of Nazareth. And this story of Jesus walking around, being a sick healer, curing leprosy, curing diseases, espousing a gospel of peace, give your money to the poor, this sort of thing, who ultimately gets crucified himself, would 100% connect directly to the event of Spartacus's crucifixion. That Spartacus and Jesus are inextractable figures from one another. That they are one and the same. And simply knowing that fact about this very real historical thing that 100% for sure happened, and then this story that people are like, well, did this happen? Is there such thing as a historical Jesus? It's completely fucking irrelevant. It's completely fucking irrelevant. That the story of Christ connects directly to the oppression of the Romans against the slave population through the act and barbarism of crucifixion. And anyone who wants to tell me that Christianity is not an important movement, Christianity is the reason why crucifixion is no longer in use. It's the stated reason that in the 3rd century, crucifixion is banned across the empire and is no longer permitted and in use. And that has stood to this day. And that's because of Christianity, and that's because of the Christian movement. And that's true whether you're an atheist or not. So anybody that wants to come at me and say, well, what good has Christianity done? We don't nail people to boards and hang them in public anymore. That's what Christianity achieved. It's a very powerful document. And more importantly, it's a document that stands and if you get into the Old Testament, it's a document that shows you exactly how far we actually have come as a people. We have actually come. I don't think that, who cares? Is Christianity real though? How much is borrowed? Who cares? Like, it's always a mixed bag, right? It's like, I actually am genuinely of the belief that Christianity as an actual ideology ended in the 3rd century. That once it became established as an accepted religion and it became the state religion, that's when it actually stopped developing. And that's actually, like, literally true. That they took... Where's my fucking Bible? Oh, I was reading it over there. They took the Bible and they put a cover on the end of it. That they put a cover on the end of it and they said, that's it, that's the Bible. That's the end of our development, right? And this is the holy book, and you can't put anything else on this side. And this is it. And that's the end of the development of Christianity as an actual ideology. And then it simply becomes a power structure from there. That the Catholic Church grows from there, and it becomes like more about its own power than it does become about an actual ideology or an actual power structure. That said, the erection of the church was actually very important because before the erection of the church, there literally was just the power of the state. And so the church ends up being a counterbalance of power within the society. And it actually has its own rules and its own military force and its own kind of thing. And it operates within the states. So it's like a federated body that operates in each independent state, which itself is ruled by its own law and its own belief structure, right? It's a very interesting development in human history that there literally was just an empire that had its own religion and its own thing, but of course the religion was not counter empire. The religion was completely empire based, and so the idea that there would be a religion that would stand apart from the state and not be of the state and have rules that could actually countervene the state, right? Like you've heard of sanctuary, right? That you can go and find sanctuary in a cathedral. That's a real thing. Like, you can run into a cathedral or a church, declare sanctuary, and you are protected. If the sanctuary was accepted, of course. Because, like, you know, if you're, like, a literal, like, if you're holding a baby, and there's, like, a mom over there being like, my baby, maybe not. But, like, no, Christianity is an absolutely brilliant it's absolutely brilliant to delve into and to discover more and to learn more about. But I think the biggest disservice, because like there's brilliant theologians, like Thomas Aquinas is brilliant, Augustus is brilliant. Oh yeah, it's well, and honestly, man, like honestly, like, even if you think all of that is fucking dumb and bullshit, like even if you're just like, this is a magic book and there's magic in it and that's dumb, it's still a really, really good read simply from a literary standpoint. Simply from a, like, it is good to have words like this etched into your consciousness. It is good to read a book that is putting in your mind these concepts or thoughts or structures, the literary language of, like, my favorite book in the whole thing is Job, and it's because it's such an important book for today. That the story of Job essentially dismantles modern day conservative individualism. That the ideology of individualism that persists today, like with your Jordan Peterson kind of stuff, is absolutely dismantled in the book of Job. That Job is a wealthy man who is doing very well, and he loves God, right? He respects and acknowledges the holiness of God. And so the devil goes to God and says, hey, this Job guy, he only likes you because he's rich. He only likes you because you've made him good. Like, everybody would love you if you did that. Let me go down there and fuck him up, and you'll see. He'll turn against you. And God goes, no, he won't. I'll take that bet. You go down there and fuck him up, but you can't kill him. And the devil is like, great. So he goes down there, massacres his family, destroys his crops, destroys his home, burns everything to the ground, kills all his cattle, inflicts Job with boils, even on the soles of his feet. So he ends up sitting in the dust, pouring dust on himself and weeping. And his friends come, and they say to him, oh, Job, this is horrible what's happened to you. You must have done something wrong. What did you do wrong, Job? What have you done in order to deserve this situation that you're in? Right? This sounds like classic conservative individualism, right? That you must have done something wrong. And of course, Job says, "I've done nothing wrong. I am righteous, and I've done everything correctly." And his friends continue to persist on this point. They continue to move forward with just the conservative individual idea that you need to pull yourself up by your bootstraps and all of this. And they talk about how the wicked are punished, that they receive justice. And Job, of course, points out that that's bullshit. The wicked often do not. Like, think about Donald Rumsfeld. You think Donald Rumsfeld got punished? And so this goes on until finally Job rebuffs all of this, right? And his claim is essentially thus, that God is going to do what God is going to do, whether or not you like it, and regardless of what you have to say about it. That his power supersedes any power that I have. And this is affirmed when, at the end of the book, Job speaks directly with God and complains about his position. Very small complaint. And 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 then God says, "Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind. Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up your loins like a man. I will question you, and you shall declare to me. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Oh, or who stretched the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone, when the morning stars sang together, and all the heavenly beings shouted for joy?" And on it goes. This God works in mysterious ways has become a kind of a cop-out, in my view. It's far more humbling than that. That it's not God works in mysterious ways. It's that God will fuck you up. That you are not very important. Like, in the grand scheme of the eternal power of your creator, or of the universe if you want to keep it secular, that if such forces want to come and wipe you out, they will. What are you going to do about it? Not much. Not much. And then Job humbles himself before the might of God, and then God gives him like a new family and a whole bunch of new shit, and so, happily ever after for Job. I love the book of Job. It's a super, super important document that I wish people like Jordan Peterson would actually read. Like, this guy did a 13-part biblical analysis and seems like he didn't actually read the book when he analyzed it. Kind of just got caught up in, like, Adam and Eve and shit like that. Anyway, I hope you guys don't mind that I go off on these Bible things. Like, I hope you guys don't... It just seems like... I don't know why we cede ground to these fucking sociopaths. Like, they don't know anything. Like, they're illiterate. Like, literally, they don't know anything about the subject, and yet they hold the book and say that they're like a God-blessed Christian nation, right? And you can find out very quickly that no, they're fucking not, and they're not interested in that at all by reading. And, like, let's be really clear about what I'm talking about. Like, this is intimidating. Is this intimidating? Do you think you could break a sweat over, like, do you think you could break a sweat over this? Like, this is what we're talking about. Read this. This is Matthew, right? Read Matthew. It's 28 chapters. How many pages? 26 pages. 26 pages, right? You can knock that out in an evening, right? And once you're finished with Matthew, you will never, ever believe these motherfuckers ever again. You will see them for what they are, which is heretics, liars, thieves, swindlers, if it wasn't obvious, but down to the foundation of their belief system. They are completely bereft of shame. They are completely bereft of goodness. They are sociopaths using this book for evil. And you figure that out, and you don't even need to really read it. You can just kind of parse it. That's how bad it is. That's how bad it is. When it comes to addressing the biodiversity crisis, Canada's environmental laws fall short. No fucking shit. This is coming out of the narwhal, though, so this might actually be worth looking at. How big is this? It's pretty... not bad. Not bad. Here. New research shows biodiversity management in Canada is undertaken through a bewildering array of laws, regulations, and tools that do little to protect species and ecosystems. Caribou, whooping crane, Gibson's big sand tiger beetle, and a dwarf western trillium are among the estimated 80,000 known species in Canada. Of these, scientists have enough information on almost 30,000 species to know that about 20% are imperiled to some degree. When Canada developed its first national biodiversity strategy in 1995, it did so under the assumption that a strong foundation of laws and policies was already in place. 25 years later, however, prevailing biodiversity trends indicate otherwise. For example, prairie grasslands have lost at least 70% of their historical extent, and grassland birds have declined by 57% since 1970. Only 24% of 125 Canadian marine fish and intervertebrate stocks are currently considered healthy, with 18 in critical state. Yeah. We're do we even care as a people, do you think? Do you even care? I just think people are so fucking exhausted that they can't possibly consider or think about this sort of stuff, right? That how can you be concerned about a larger meta or something that exists outside of the cities as far as you're concerned while you're constantly grinding your face into the grindstone, right? How can you possibly even pause to care about any of this while you're just on this perpetual treadmill of just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. Just this week, however, the United Nations World Heritage Committee reported that Wood Buffalo National Park, the largest in Canada, likely meets the criteria for inscription on the list of World Heritage in danger. This is largely due to the cumulative effects of industrial developments outside the park, stemming from uncoordinated and piecemeal decisions by Alberta and British Columbia governments. But I thought capitalism was efficient. Right? Wasn't capitalism super efficient? I think they're scared but preoccupied, trying to make it one more day. Yeah. Or trying to plan just for their own future, right? That even if they do have the ability to set up some kind of plan or some kind of meta consideration, that their own survival and their own safety is paramount. Because you can't really think of anything else. No one else is thinking about that. No one else is planning, right? So you have to. I mean, making biodiversity conservation a priority or guiding principle in the bones of decision making, as the CDB envisions, is nowhere in sight. Yeah, because capitalists only consider things in quarters, right? That line go up, good. That's genuinely how they think. That these guys, when they are saying that they are about free market capitalism, right? Well, how is the statement of let the market decide, or the invisible hand of the market will figure it out, how is that statement any different than let chaos reign? Right? Somebody needs to really tell me, do like a juxtaposition between what is the difference between saying, oh, market forces will decide, and let chaos reign. And once you recognize that those two statements are just a restatement, that they're identical to one another in every way except semantically, you recognize that the people who are espousing this doctrine are worshippers of chaos. That they aren't interested in making a plan. They aren't interested in creating some sort of long-scale idea of how the society should look. They're not interested in any of that. They're not interested in order, right? They're not interested in any of that. They're interested in worshiping chaos. And the only time that they'll actually acknowledge that order needs to exist is within their own borders, right? Their own business must be orderly, right? And if you're a worshiper of chaos, well, the only way that you can perceive order existing is through a tyrannical hierarchy called a business, right? That you have workers who obey everything you say. You maybe have a manager who listens to what you say. And then you have a CEO to operate your many stores that you have. But it's this hierarchy that exists, but you're not communicating with anybody else, right? You're just communicating with yourself. You're not really interested in what anybody else is doing outside of your competitors. And the very fact that you're competing with somebody is an inefficiency in and of itself. Like this absurdist narrative that says that competition breeds innovation has got to be the most insipid and stupid thing anyone has ever said. I can't imagine a more childish belief than the belief that people competing with one another will be more efficient than people cooperating with one another, right? That somehow, if you have three disparate groups that do not communicate with one another, they will somehow be able to research and develop new innovations more effectively than the same amount of people cooperating attempting to do that. Like, it's so childish that I can't believe it was ever like, if somebody said that in front of me, I would laugh at them. Like, that's how stupid it is. It's like a belief in Santa Claus. That's how childish that is. I don't personally think we're any better off than people 1,000 years ago. We just have different stuff. Well, and it depends on how you measure, right? Like, certainly in terms of, like, health outcomes, like, we live longer, right? For whatever value that has. But, like, things are less stable, right? That there, 1,000 years ago, right, this place was largely medieval, right? Like, it was, why am I blanking? It was monarchies, right? It was feudal monarchies, which is a step up from the slavery of the Roman Empire that persisted. Michael Parenti actually wrote a really interesting book about Julius Caesar and talked about Julius Caesar. One of the major reasons why he was likely assassinated was because he enacted policy that was the backbone of the serf system, that instead of slaves being directly owned by an individual and a slave being able to be traded and sold as an individual, that the slaves were transferred to the land itself, that they became serfs. So you could still buy and sell the land, but the serfs went with it, right? And so that created a great deal of stability for the serfs, because now you could actually create families, and now you could actually build a life on this parcel of land, knowing that nobody could come in and just pick you up and displace you, as they had all experienced, right? Most of the slaves were coming from France and Germany and this region up in here and being transferred, being completely displaced. The Celts and the Gauls and all of that. And so Julius Caesar erected this system, which was the backbone of the serf system. And that's probably the major reason he was assassinated, right? Because as we know from fairly recent history with the American Civil War, that sociopathic slavers don't like giving up their slaves. Like, they will fight major wars, murder lots of people in order to have the right to enslave people. And that was as true in ancient Rome as it was in the Civil War. And that's Michael Parenti. You can go take a look at, he's got a great lecture on YouTube about that. And so then you have this period after the fall of the Roman Empire where serfdom becomes the common way, that they get rid of the slave system. There are, of course, still slaves around, but most people end up going into this serf system. And the serf system was actually quite stable. That one of the most stable economic systems throughout the feudal period was something called the tally stick system, where what it was is the king would have, and the king is largely an administrator, right? So the king would have this stick, a big, large stick, and there would be a series of sticks that were notched into that stick. And every year there would be a big fucking festival, like a big feast, right? And everyone would hand in their tally sticks, right? And the king would notch it up and make sure that there was no counterfeiting happening, right? And all of the sticks would get notched up, and then he would take the sticks and distribute them evenly into the society, right? That you distribute the tally sticks evenly into the society, and then people used them to trade amongst each other for the base necessities that everybody needed to have access to, right? Food. In serfdom, there was no like rent, like you weren't renting. Everybody just had shelter, but you would trade it with goods and all of this. And then over time, eventually, what would happen is that one person would begin to collect all of the tally sticks, right? Because that's how capitalist systems and market systems actually work. That it is inevitable that one person begins to collect all the stuff, but that's okay because every year the king gathered it all back up and redistributed it. And that tally stick system is an economic system that seems to have been completely stable for 700 years throughout the feudal period. And you don't start getting big economic crashes until the capitalists come in and do away with the tally stick system, create fiat currencies, or currencies based on gold or whatever, which are essentially fiat currencies, and they displace the serfs, right? That the end of serfdom and the beginning of the capitalist period begins by the capitalists forcibly removing women and children and men from the land of their ancestors. They've been there like 1,000 years by now. Forcibly removing them from the land, forcing the men onto boats to go to war, right? Conscription, and forcing the women into factories, and forcing the children into mines, right? Literally forcing the children into mines. And that's the beginning of capitalism. And of course, this system is completely unstable and comes with multiple crashes, some of them extremely absurd. One of the major crashes, and it's completely absurd, happens in the Netherlands. It's the tulip crash. The tulip crash happens in the Netherlands because a tulip craze begins to take over the Netherlands. Everyone wants to have tulips. And so because tulips become so popular, farmers begin planting tulips instead of grain, because tulips are a luxury crop. You're going to get a lot of money from tulips. And wealthy people begin to speculate on tulip crops several seasons out. They begin to invest and speculate on the value of tulip current crops several years down the line. This, of course, creates a sort of self-inflicted famine, because you can't really eat tulips. And farmers are planting tulips instead of grain. And some nobleman stands up in the court and says, "This is absolutely insipid and childish and stupid. Tulips are flowers. This is absurd. We need grain." And everybody, upon hearing this, went, "You're absolutely goddamn right." And everyone collectively came to their senses, collectively recognized and realized that, oh yeah, these are just fucking flowers. Like, they're nice and all, but like, we're building this whole economic thing where people are speculating and like, literally people were taking their wealth, like their family wealth, and speculating on this market. And when this happened, when this fellow stood up and said, "This is dumb, we need to stop," and everybody came to their senses and realized that that was true, and the farmers planted grain again, the whole fucking market collapsed and people lost a shit ton of money. Well, people went fucking bankrupt over it, right? And it's absolutely absurd, and it's the natural consequence of capitalism. That if you let chaos reign, then chaos will make you do fucking stupid shit. Because unless you have some kind of meta consideration, some kind of board of directors, or some kind of council that looks at the situation from a planning perspective, from a like civilization building perspective, from the perspective of, is this a good idea? Should we maybe not think about doing this? If you don't have that, then your society can just get caught up in weird larks and strange oddities, like fucking planting tulips instead of grain. You can literally starve your people out because you wanted pretty flowers. We have the evidence. We've seen it happen. And my hope, when it comes to the absurdist crisis that we're in the middle of now, is that everyone will come to their senses. That people like me and people like you will continue to point out that this is fucking stupid what we're doing. This is fucking stupid. It's stupid that Dundas Square is lit up like a candle. It's stupid like Times Square is lit up like a candle. It's stupid that the interstate highways are lit up like candles. It's stupid that we're burning, that it's stupid that we have Bitcoin, which eats up as much energy as the nation of Sweden. To power the entire nation of Sweden is the same amount of power as powering Bitcoin. That's fucking stupid. That hopefully if we continue to say that it's just goddamn stupid what we're doing, we'll all just come to our senses and realize, yeah, maybe we just need to fucking stop. We just need to stop. You're right about that, Jeff. Biggest slave system is the American for-profit industrial prison complex. Yeah, absolutely. Capitalists forgot that whole part in the Bible that says the last will be first in the kingdom of heaven. Yeah. Well, they don't read the book. They don't give a shit. Africa is considering UBI since the riots and lootings this past week. Absolutely. Money isn't real. Like, this is the big thing that I think people really need to get into their heads. Money's not real, right? It's just an abstraction. It's an abstraction of our will. That's all it is. That's all it is. It's not anything other than that. that if we decided to erect an institution that trained clowns, that if we all just got together as a people and said, man, I could really go for having a whole bunch of fucking clowns, right? Literally like pie-in-the-face clowns. And we just decided as a people we want that, then the government would print the money that it needed to print, and it would erect that institution, and suddenly we'd have a whole bunch of fucking clowns. And it happened because we decided it should. If we wanted to erect an institution that's explicit goal was to plant as many trees as it possibly could, as often as it could, we could erect that institution. We would print the money to do it, and we would erect the institution, and it would exist. Very simple, very straightforward. We have the power to do this because money isn't real. It is an abstraction. It is an abstraction of our will. What this means, of course, is that if you pay attention to how money is working in the society today, that means that we are letting private billionaires have sex slave islands and shooting rockets at the moon because we want them to. And there's no other reason. We want them to. We seem to need, it seems to fill something inside of humans to be able to look at a billionaire owning 14-year-old sex slaves and shooting rockets at the moon. And we go, wow, that's greatness. You know? There's something in us that is innate and built in that requires we have this kind of deity worship, that we transfer our worship of the universe itself onto some kind of icon, pharaoh type figure. And in this society, that's the billionaires. That the billionaires might as well be demigods as far as these guys are concerned. And they only exist because we want them to. And we're enslaving ourselves to them because we want to be enslaved. And if we didn't want to be enslaved by them, then we would stop participating, and we would all get together and we would say, no, something else, please. Let's change the channel on this. This story is not working for me. This narrative isn't happening. And guess what would happen? If we all made the decision that, well, we'll all work insofar as we need food, and we'll all work insofar as we need to maintain the base maintenance of the society, but outside of that, we'll all just sort of mill around and do what we want, then that's exactly what would happen. And it would happen because that's what we would want to happen, right? That we have forgotten that we rule the money. The money does not rule us. And when these chaos worshippers say, let the market decide, they are fundamentally saying, let the money rule you. No. No, thank you. We rule the money. The money works for us. We don't work for the money. That's not how it actually works. And if we elected officials who are saying, hey, we can literally reconfigure the society to be anything we want it to be, then we'd be better off by a wide margin. But this worship of money and this worship of the billionaires and this worship is holding us back in significant ways, which is why I call it a capitalist death cult, because it is a death cult. There's no real other way to describe it. Like, we are destroying ourselves with our system because we want to. And that really is the explanation. You can get into some kind of psychological, and you can go deep into some sort of spiritual or theological and all of this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, we're destroying ourselves because we want to. We could stop, but we don't want to. Humans. Yeah, a little bit of overtime today, Jeff. You're right. I'm going to close it down. I'm fucking tired. This really perked my mood up, guys. I'm so thankful that you're all here. Be sure to like, be sure to share, be sure to subscribe. The Patreon, the money, give me some money, all that. Bless every single one of you for being here. Bless you. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Man. I hope each and every one of you is doing really well. I hope that your lives are going well. I know you're making good decisions. Love and kindness to everyone. Absolutely. 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 Reach out and touch a friend. Spending a little bit of time with a friend today really helped me out. And if you can spend a little bit of time with a friend, you should. Absolutely. Reach out and touch someone. Reach out and touch faith. All right. Good luck. We're going to need it.